Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
Hello Star Wars Destiny folks, and good morning. Welcome to Dice Commando. So with the ARH Mid-Cycle event behind us, we're about halfway through-ish the Redemption meta. I think there's another 2 months or so to go before ARH 3 drops. I do expect that we'll be getting some sort of meta shakeup, right? So let's shake it up type of thing coming soon. So I wanted to talk about, where I see the state of the competitive meta, which will of course drive that shakeup, and some of my thoughts on where we should or could or might go. Hey folks, thanks again for joining me today. So I mentioned in the last video that I'm actually up early shooting these. I am on kiddo duty today, and the sun's starting to come up, so a couple things might happen. One, the lighting in the room might go to hell real quick, and if the baby monitor goes off, I'll just stop the video and come back. So like I said, we're about halfway through. I do expect a meta shakeup to come soon. They may already have it planned. I honestly don't know. But what I wanted to do today was just kind of go through my thoughts on that. Now, I've got a bunch of notes down, and I might end up popping around back and forth and even come up with stuff as we go. So kind of just an open notebook type of video today. So the first two things I want to hit on, the first thing is kind of the feeling of inevitability or helplessness, I guess a better way to say it, right? There's a lot of decks out there. With the way the top meta is right now, there's a lot of decks out there that if you sit down with anything that's not specifically meta tuned, it feels like you have no chance. Now that's always kind of a thing to a certain extent. Like if you used to sit down against droids and stuff, maybe that's a fair example. Is like a lot of times you sat down versus droids, just like there's no point in me playing this game. And I feel that if you sit down, there's basically 4 decks in the meta right now, and I feel that if you try and play anything other than those 4 decks, you're kind of toast. Whereas with certain exceptions, of course, there's always exceptions, but if you look at, I guess this is the next thing, we'll just go right into it. Right, is there's been a lot of people saying, look, we have a healthy meta because we have 4 decks at the top. And that's true, right? If you look at a lot of other games, Magic or whatever, you usually have 3, 4, maybe 5 decks at the top, and that's pretty normal for these type of games, right? And I don't think anybody's arguing that point. I think the problem, quote unquote, or my not the problem. I think my issue with the meta as it exists today is the pure divide between the top and tier 1.5 even. Right, and I don't even know that we could say, like, maybe after this weekend showing, like maybe Maul Savage with a really good pilot is 1.5, but it feels like the divide between 1 and 2 is so huge, and I don't think that's, when someone says, well, look at Magic, right, there's basically 4, which is true, there's basically 4 Magic decks that are in the top, meta considerations right now, and they play pretty well, and together it's pretty healthy meta, but I don't feel that, like, if someone comes up with, like, a weird, janky homebrew deck, like, I don't feel that, like, in Magic, I think they could still, like, win. Like, I think that there's more room there, whereas I don't feel, in this game, or I don't feel in this meta right now in Destiny that, your casual level, I shouldn't say casual level, but I don't feel that, like, your tier 2 decks even have a fighting chance, right? Against Akbar or against pirates specifically. Like, I just don't feel that it's even close. So, while I understand, and I agree, there is a healthy top meta. Like, there's no argument there. Like, they have the back and forth. I think pirates are probably too strong, but, like, there's no problem there, right? It's just that it feels like everything else is just so far below those top decks. So that's really my stance and issue today. So let's move into talking about the quote unquote shakeup, right? This is the time that we traditionally see, negative balance of the forces. And, you know what we've been talking about on this channel the last couple weeks. It's almost like I didn't have a plan or something here, right? This is the time when we would see a lot of negative balance of the force. And what I think we need to do, based on the statements I just made, that we have these top decks that are so high, I don't think the right move here is to drop a bunch of guys down and quote-unquote shake it up. I think the right thing to do is hamper and hamstring some of those higher decks, right? Specifically pirates. And I think the reason that traditionally we skew towards dropping other characters and adding more pairings is because we don't want to quote-unquote kill the auto decks, right? Well, if we add 1 point to this person, I can no longer play this deck that we had planned or whatever, right? If you make Dak 16, now you can't play Luke Dak DDS. I mean, whatever, right? So let me go hit on, I don't know, some cards. So Akbar's an interesting beast. I think what Akbar needs, there's been a couple of proposals. I want to address at least some of them that I've heard. Akbar goes to 30. This is the one I like. I like Akbar going to 30 so he can't play with United We Stand. The big thing that I've seen in the games where I play Akbar is that one, it's the round, it's generally like a round 3 where you remove an X-Wing die that's threatening a character to die and they roll it back in. I don't think Akbar needs that. Like with what he is and having eject on hand and I talked in the last video that like when the difference between my round 1 and my round 2 specifically was that my opponent was forced to eject an X-Wing early and that really hurt him. So, that's something there, right? Like, I guess that's the point is like, I mean, I don't think it's a groundbreaking statement saying if he loses X-Wings, it's a big deal, but I don't think that, I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought here because I'm going ahead. So point is, United We Stand with the ability to roll that back in and get that X-Wing die back for potentially that kill shot round 3 makes a huge difference. So I think putting Akbar back to 30 is the way to go. Another proposal I've heard is capping X-Wing. Now, so I want to be clear about this. This is actually a really, really smart proposal. Capping X-Wing at 4, right? The reason they want to cap, and they don't mean the number, they mean the value, like, so basically go back in errata, X-Wing itself, where X equals number of X-Wings to a maximum of 4, would basically be the proposal. I think this is a reasonable proposal because in design land, when the X-Wing was designed, it was never designed, it was maybe with double down you could have 5 of them, right? So, I mean, fair enough. But, in a reasonable world, X was meant to be 4. Right, it was. So I think that's a reasonable proposal. Now, I don't think that's what needs done, basically because I don't want to cause confusion with like any infinite formats or something like that, or have to worry about that. Also, you don't want to have to go back and change an FFG card, right? But the other thing is, I don't think it really matters from it doesn't really matter from an Akbar perspective, right? Like at the point that it gets to 4, I don't think it matters if the X-Wing gets to 5. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of already done. So I don't think functionally that one really matters. So I don't, it's not that I don't like that proposal. I think it's actually a really smart proposal. It's just I think the, not risk reward, but I think the pro con there just doesn't outweigh, like the pro does not outweigh like what the drawback of that would be, right? So I don't necessarily want to do that one. So, and then the eject, that's where I got off early and I do apologize for that, right? I had kind of floated, kind of just in a spitball idea, restricting eject and merchant freighter, and I did that in the piloting episode, and I said I didn't think the meta needs it. And to be clear, I don't know that it does, because I think that this is another one of those drawback things where I think if we did restrict merchant and eject, that it would keep some other decks that might be tier 2 out of the meta as well, like a Vader deck, for example. But, I very clearly saw in round 2 what happens when someone's forced to actually eject something that has real value, right? And I think, I don't know, I mean, I think that puts it in perspective. Swinging for value with ambush for card from hand and losing a merchant that you probably got at least 2 resources off of is way different than sacking an X-Wing, right? So I don't know. That one is, I had floated that a couple weeks back, and actually I saw somebody else floated that idea as well, and I don't think that they watch my stuff. So I think that it's interesting that multiple people are starting to come to that conclusion, and I think the reason is just because of Akbar, to be honest. Next, let's talk about pirates, dude. Pirate Loyalist sucks. I think we need to ban Pirate Loyalist. It's fine to have him as a card for what he does on Hondo, right? Because I don't expect, like, if they haven't made Hondo a PA at this point, I don't think they're going to. We'll talk about kind of the relevance of that a little later. But Pirate Loyalist, let's just ban him. Like, it's just time. He needs to go away. Because if we positive balance of force him, which he probably should be an 8, maybe even a 9, but if we do positive balance of force him, you're basically killing that deck kind of anyway. So can we just ban the guy? I mean, we don't need on-demand choke. Like, we don't need on-demand non-controllable choke. I'm sorry. So just ban him. Next card that makes pirates real good is Den of Thieves. So I think this is another ban, not because I think this is, just hear me out. I think this one is a ban because I think the only way that you can make this card reasonable is to fix it so much that it doesn't even look like itself anymore. Like, you'd have to change so much about it. So I think we need to ban Den of Thieves. My main problem with it, I actually like, one of the proposals I've heard out there is put damage on it instead of resources. Okay, right? That's okay, because then, like, you can't use it as removal, right? You can't do the boarding party and move the resources off, and that's fine. My main thing is the fact that you can overkill it, right? So, like, if somebody hits you for 5 with a modifier, you can just overkill Den of Thieves, and that it just doesn't feel good. I mean, it feels great if you're the one Den of Thieves, but it just feels like not in the spirit of the card, I guess. I don't know. So that's my thing, is I would like it to somehow not be able to overkill, like almost work like a riot shield or something like that. I do kind of think the resource interaction's kind of neat. So I'm okay with the resource interaction thing, but I could see making it damage. If you want to keep the I think it has to be either or, right? If you wanted to overkill, it has to be damage on there so that you can't get the tricks out of it. I think that inherently to the pirate design, they want it to be resources, and I'm okay with that. But then it has to be something where you can't just, like, sink 5 damage into the thing when it's already got 2 on it, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think, and like I said, I think that the only way to fix it is to, like, basically change the card so much that it kind of is unrecognizable, or just nerf it into oblivion, and in which case we should just ban it anyway. So, like, I think we just killed Den of Thieves. Okay, so moving into Leia Anakin. Leia Anakin is pretty good. If we decide we want to touch that one, I think the one that, like, I think, again, you guys know I'm not a huge fan of transformations, but I think realistically, Leia probably is the one that's too good, right? So I think that Leia probably needs to be 16. The problem with that, and hear me out here, you guys know I like Dak. I played Dak Benthic. I played Dak Luke. But I think that realistically, though, if they make the decision to bump up Leia, they have to bump up Dak by the same argument, right? Because Leia's basically, right, just hear me out, Leia on average is basically like a 1-ish shield in a fundamental deck, right? Now, obviously, you build her deck slightly different so that she has a higher curve on that, like you build it with very few zeros. But, like, at a fundamental level, she's a 1 shield, right? With obviously sometimes the 2s and stuff like that. And that's basically what Dak is doing, is giving you 1 shield. And with his damage sides, anyway, that's why I think, and having piloting, right? So I think that one's a tough decision, because I think if you bump Leia by 1, that you have to, like, by the same argument, bump Dak by 1 from a mathematical argument. Now, from a meta standpoint, I don't think you do. But I just wanted to, put that in context that, I think Leia probably should be 16. Because, yeah, I think Leia should be 16. I don't think Dak should be 16, but that's what I'm saying, is by the same argument, they should both kind of work hand in hand. So I don't know. We'll see what they want to do with that one. But I think if we hurt pirates, I think again, my proposal on Akbar making him 30, I don't think changes that much, except like the round 3 decision. So I think he'd be okay. I think Leia Anakin probably goes to the top if we take pirates out. I don't know about that. The next one is, and I don't know what to do about this one. I don't know what to do about Lumpy. Lumpy Chewie is just so frustrating to play against. But the reality is, like, if you balance Lumpy up, all you're going to do is just sack a Lumpy die to, like, you're going to still run Tribe. So what do they do? They make him +4? Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, taking away that other die, don't get me wrong, is not insignificant. But, like, you're not really playing Lumpy for his dice. Like, overall, you're not. It's great when you get that little, like, you know, that 3-drop that makes him read all of his dice for free. That's fantastic. But I don't know what to do about Lumpy. So if some of this stuff goes through, what changes? The other draw, the counter argument to everything I've said above is that if we change a lot of this stuff to be worse, I'm really worried about the Relentless Advance, Camino, Defensive Perimeter decks. Defensive perimeter, like I think the only reason we haven't seen this battle, I'm actually confident in this. Actually, the only reason we haven't seen defensive perimeter being a problem is because of where the meta is right now. The two action thing repeatedly is it's scary, right? So I mean, again, it's not that it's a problem right now, but if things change, I do think that those decks pop up and be a real problem. Pyre and Relentless Advance together is real good. But those are fun decks. But I do think those pop up. And you know, as we talked about, I think in the Wayback Machine when they did their first balance after Redemption dropped, Camino I think was dropped from their watch list, and like I think we see Camino become. I don't know. Moral of this little story is I think that the red decks become significantly, the red villain deck specifically with Relentless and Camino and all that, become a significant real thing in the meta if we have some top tier changes. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So those are just really my takeaway thoughts. Like I said, it's not that the meta is a problem. Like the meta it's healthy in terms of having what we have, but you know, it doesn't feel like the rest of the decks really have a chance. And I think that you have a bad situation. I think that there's a non-ideal situation overall when we have basically such a divide and everyone feels that they have to play this, otherwise there's no point in playing. So that's what I'm looking forward to in their balance changes. I don't know when that'll come out. I would expect it to come out pretty soon, though, right? I mean, if they want, you know, for 2 months, that's, you know, 8 weeks of EG tournaments. That's 8 weeks of, so 8 EG tournaments, roughly 16 of various Echo-based tournaments. Maybe there's another. I think actually I'll plug Echo has their charity event on the 24th. There's a couple DC team tournaments in there. So there are ARH standard tournaments that are happening. Maybe not at the same competitive level we had last weekend, but they're happening. And I think that we'll see significant interest wane if they don't do it. So I do expect them to do it. So yeah, we'll see where they go. I'm really hoping that we don't go in and just drop a whole bunch of characters down to try and bring stuff up. I'm really hoping that we focus in on what some of the problems are, primarily Pirate Choke, the Pirate Loyalists. I do one thing that I didn't mention was another deck I think will actually pop up and be really good is Hondo Bale Admiral, or Hondo Admiral deck specifically with Bale is pretty good, but I do expect to see some sort of Hondo Admiral decks, and probably Palp actually then pokes his head back as well, right? So if you drop those 4, I think your resets become more of a threat, as well as that the Red Troopers battlefield control deck. So Hey folks, I'm back. I was kind of getting distracted. Spencer's starting to wake up. I don't know how good your microphone or your headphones are, but you were probably hearing it. Anyway, one thing that I'd completely left out of going through the Dex discussion is that, we do need to be mentally prepared for the fact that I believe, at least, that if we nerf pirates, that we're going to maybe be looking at support type spam again, right? I mean, there's a lot of low-cost characters out there like Ozzel and Zero and stuff like that have a lot of money sides, right? And number Jabba is still a thing. All those guys are still relevant. So I do think that if the money steal is less easy, I think that ramp decks become a thing, right? So that is one thing to keep in mind, that, if we get our wish and they take away pirates, we might not be happy with the end. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. But definitely, there's a bunch of ramp deck potential out there because we're in a full meta of. I mean, it's a fully loaded meta, right? So, and in that I mean, sorry, I don't mean meta, but it's a fully loaded set release. So we could very easily get our wish and be in a less happier spot than we were. So we'll just have to take the good with the bad. Anyway. With all that said, I do think it's coming. Fingers crossed that we get it soon and in a a good manner. What are you guys thinking? What would you like to see? Do you have suggestions? Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. So if nothing else, folks, thanks again for joining me this morning, and go Commando.